Detroit, and you found the right place for the latest Detroit Lions news. So hop on in and take the ride to Super Bowl 60 with Rockhound Detroit Lions. Join Will Rock, Eric Rintamaki, and Riley O'Brien today on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Good morning. About that little technical difficulty to get started here. Hopefully you guys are all good out there. Anyway, good morning. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is another solo mission today. Riley called off today. I'm not sure. Maybe he's not feeling good. Not real sure, but it's just going to be me. So we're going to review a little bit about what happened last night with the Bears and the Vikings. What's going to happen with the old Lions this week in what I'm considering to be a big heavyweight fight. Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell. Did you see anything out of the Bears last night that maybe makes you a little bit nervous? I mean, immediately I was hearing from people saying that, man, Caleb Williams is elite. Huh? Caleb Williams isn't elite. Not even close. And neither is J.J. McCarthy. Not even close. We'll get into why. There's some things that happened in last night's game, in my opinion, that thankfully helped the Vikings to win that game. There's no way you want to go into this week with the potential for the Bears to go up 2-0 in the division, or at least feeling good, riding high on a win, heading into Ford Field. Ludell Wesley, clearly an SOL fan, says, Lions going to lose. Caleb Williams is mobile, and Goff isn't. Be the difference in the game. Nah. Please, you know what? Let's just start with that. Let's extrapolate that out as far as we can go back right now. How many games did the Lions win last year? Huh. How many did they win the year before? And the year before that, second half of the season, 2022, when the team finally started to turn around, Jared Goff has one of the best records in football over the last 50 games played. 50. More than all of Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy's career combined. How much of those games did Jared Goff need to be mobile? 0. Let's throw another guy in this. Tom Brady. How many games was he mobile? 0. 29 yards a year rushing on the ground. That is such a lazy statement. Lazy. That Jared Goff needs to be mobile. Here's what the Lions dealt with this last weekend, which was an offensive line that had a lot of miscues. An offensive line that had a lot of miscommunications. Dan Campbell obviously recognized it, spoke about it, and that is probably one of the easiest things to fix going into week 2. There's no reason why the Lions cannot fix these offensive line issues. One, they're going to be at home. They're going to have the benefit of a nice, quiet stadium. Hopefully, if the idiots that don't know how to root for the Lions, if they stay loud when the Lions are on offense, then, yeah, maybe not. But, yeah, shut the hell up when the Lions are on offense, by the way, in case you forgot. It is week 2. Learn how to be a fan again this week, right? You got to be quiet when the Lions come up to the line. You got to be quiet when the Lions are in the huddle. It's the same thing for every other team. But they'll have the benefit of a nice, quiet stadium, their home crowd, to give them an opportunity to figure a couple of things out. By week 4, I expect that this offensive line is going to be humming. They're going to be fine. There was some issues this last weekend. This first game with that offensive line. A lot of issues. That was probably the biggest reason why the offense did not get going. was not Jared Goff. Did Jared? Hold on. Let me throw this at you. Hold on. Speaking of mobile, I'm going to pick on you this morning, Mr. Wesley. Mr. Wesley's in the house. Speaking of mobile, Caleb Williams is so mobile, he took 12 sacks in one game against the Vikings. Took 2 sacks last night for 12 yards against the Vikings last night. Jared took 3 without being mobile. One of them was Jared's fault. He took 4. One of them was Jared's fault. 1. Caleb runs himself into sacks. Running all over the place. But he's not going north. Goff's not going to do that. J.J. McCarthy, he took 3 sacks. You're going to tell me that their mobility, they're so mobile, that they're better than Jared Goff, yet they still took about the same amount of sacks. Except their sacks look uglier than what Jared took. Jared just hung in the pocket. And when Jared needs to move out, right, if they run the naked boots, if they boot out at all, Jared's fine. I love that play. Matter of fact, it's one of the better plays for Jared. Getting him out in space, getting him out on the right side, not the left, but on the right side. Jared makes some big plays. That's one of my favorite passes from Jared. Him on the run, on a called play, on a called rollout, hitting that little 5-6 yard out route there on the sideline. Typically, they use it for a first down. They just got to use it. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that the Lions don't have some offensive line issues. That's where I started. They do. But for a revamped Chicago Bears offensive line, well, they didn't look great. They spent all that money on all those guys. They didn't look great at all. It's week 1, y'all. Come on. We do this every year. We have this faction of the fan base that is like, oh my God, the sky's falling. You know, the season's over. They lost 1 game. Look, if the Lions could go 3-3 or even 4-4 through the first half of the season with this schedule, there's nothing wrong with that. I expected him to be a little bit better. I got him going 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 4-1. Right? I have him going 13-4 on the season. That could be 12-5. It could even be 11-6. But don't forget last year's playoff teams. Let me pull that up for you. League standings last year before the playoffs. Oh my God. There we go. Buffalo Bills 13-4. They made the playoffs. Baltimore Ravens 12-5. They made the playoffs. Los Angeles Chargers 11-6. They made the playoffs. Pittsburgh Steelers 10-7. That's the floor. 10-7 is the floor for a team to make it into the playoffs. Broncos 10-7. In the North, Lions 15-2, Vikings 14-3, Eagles 14-3, Commanders 12-5, Packers 11-6, Rams 10-7, Buccaneers 10-7, Seahawks 10-7. 10-7 is the floor. All the Lions really need to do is finish 11-6 in this year's run to the playoffs will continue. Sky is not falling. Jared Goff is mobile enough. I get sick of the people that want to discredit Jared Goff, who's been one of the best quarterbacks that this league has seen ever. Ever. Especially in the last 50 games. But throughout his entire career, he's posted some of the most consistent stats that you've seen from a quarterback. Ever. Miss me with that. All right, now let's get back into what I was talking about. Let's talk about last night for a moment because, up through this game, all I heard was Caleb Williams. This guy is going to be elite. J.J. McCarthy is the next best thing since sliced bread. That's not what I saw. I saw a first quarter for Caleb Williams that looked pretty good. And then I watched it all fall apart. I saw a coach in Ben Johnson that really made some boneheaded moves at times. Missed some pretty big calls at times. And the fourth quarter absolutely deflated. You don't expect that stuff on the other side with Kevin O'Connell. He's a pretty damn good football coach. You would not expect that. You didn't really see that in this game. You watched the Minnesota defense that started out flat. They gave Caleb a lot in the beginning, and then they just tightened up, man. They just cinched. They continued to just, it's like you kept cinching the zip strip, the zip tie just a little bit, just one more notch every play. And before you know it, that Bears offense couldn't move, right? They couldn't do anything. It was 3 and out. Or the Caleb Williams falling into the backfield, fluttering the football and getting an intentional grounding. He does it every year multiple times. Like, that stuff just looks goofy, unhinged, undisciplined. That doesn't look elite to me. I don't see Jared Goff making those moves at all. Yeah, Ludell may not be. I don't know. I'm just saying he probably was or is, but I really don't know. I'm definitely not going to say that Goff is only elite because he played against or behind an offensive line that was elite. I'm not going to say that either. It takes two to tango, right? It takes two to tango. If your offensive line cannot allow the run game, so let's talk about that for a moment. If the offensive line cannot establish the run, no quarterback is good. No quarterback's going to win a football game. If you can't run the football and you are one-dimensional, what do the Lions do to teams? What do we do to teams when we take away the run? I don't care what team it is. You take away their ability to run, you smother them. You suffocate them. They can't pass. There's no play action. 75% of your playbook is done. It's cooked. So don't just say that the Lions can't do this stuff. Don't just say that Goff can't do this stuff or Goff is not elite because he doesn't have an elite offensive line anymore, which I think he still does. The point that I'm trying to make here is every single team that loses their run game typically doesn't win a football game. Typically doesn't. Now, has Jared Goff gone the other direction with it? Absolutely. He's played phenomenal. When pass pro's working, again, every team requires pass pro. Do you think that do you think that Patrick Mahomes has won all of these games without having an elite offensive line? Do you think that Lamar Jackson has won all the games without having an elite offensive line? Or Joe Burrow? Josh Allen? Come on, man. Let's be real. Those are some of the best offensive lines in the league. Jalen Hurts. The Eagles have had one. They're either the ranked number 1 or number 2 the last 4 or 5 seasons. Come on, people. I know you have more than 2 brain cells. I know you have to. You're walking. You're talking, right? You're moving. You're texting. That takes more than 2 brain cells. But to sit here and tell me that the Jared Goff is not elite anymore because he doesn't have an offensive line, that is just hot trash. He's still an elite quarterback. What you're referring to is scheme breakdown, not Jared Goff breakdown. No quarterback will ever be able to throw the football without an offensive line. because teams will just pin their ears back and go. It's exactly what the Lions do too. So that means that every team that we've beaten that way, that quarterback's not elite either then, right? That's the argument you've presented. That's laughable. And no, you know what? Absolutely, the Lions. So Nick, I see your question in here. It says, "Will the Lions didn't look competent week one?" No, they did not. They look like a newer team that is struggling with some miscommunications. That's what they look like. There's no faking that. What's going to change? A lot and quickly. But again, let's reserve judgment until week 4, because the first quarter is going to tell you who your team is. Right? After 4 games, it's pretty much decided. If you go 1-3, probably not going to make the playoffs, especially with a first place schedule. If you go 2-2, you're probably going to be somewhere in the, wild card range. But for the Lions, with a first place schedule and the team that they have, well, we watched them rip off eight wins in a row. Last year they did it. Oh God, how many times did they win more than 6 games in a row? They have the same team. They're just missing, a couple of guys. Here's what I would say. When Frank Ragnow comes back this year, things will settle down. I bet you Frank is probably sick right now after watching this first week. He is probably sick to his stomach, thinking, man, I bailed on my dudes for all the right reasons. Right? He has every right to retire happily with the rest of his body intact. But man, just one more season, Frank, if you could have done it, this is the squad. This is the best team yet. And he bailed. But if and when Frank comes back, you'll see a huge change. Why? Graham's good, right? He's not elite. He is competent. But when you have a rookie to your right that is making some mistakes, when you have some miscues on the offensive line, and you're completely missing blocks, that's uncalled for, right? That stuff would get cleaned up. You also have to remember the Lions were in enemy territory with a very loud stadium. There's about 75% Lions fans. Or I'm sorry, 75% Green Bay Packer fans. Very loud stadium. Rookie offensive line, very difficult to play. You should see a much different team this weekend. Much different. And if we don't, then come back and tell me to eat my crow next week, Monday. I'll happily do it on air, like I always would. Last season, I'm going to run it back for just a moment. Let's take a look back at last season. Because last season's schedule was no different, right? It was still a first place schedule. It was a very tough schedule. Lions get out of the gate. They take a win real quick against the Rams. They drop the second week to the Bucs. Flip-flop that. This week, we take an L in week 1. We win in week 2. It is no different from last year. Why is everybody so worried? Why? I don't understand it. I don't. If I had any more hair to pull out, I pull it out. You guys drive me nuts, man. And not everybody. You know who you are. Okay, week 3, win. Week 4, win. Week 5, win. Week 6, win. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We lost again after week 2 in week 14 against the Bills, or 15 against the Bills. So we went from week 2 11 wins in a row. Miss me with that crap. It's one loss. It's one bad performance, and it was a really bad performance. And you know what's really great about having a really bad performance? There's a lot that can go better, right? There's a lot that can get cleaned up. And if we know one thing about this team, they clean it up. When Dan says we're going to clean it up, he cleans it up. I love Jack2125. Hey, by the way, Jack, I guess you got booted the other day by accident. Hopefully no harm, no foul, and things were fixed. Crap happens. If you guys post links in here, I guess my bot will automatically boot you, which, I mean, for good reason. We don't want links posted. Anyway, to Jack's point, he says the optics of the game is concerning, yes, but he's not panicking. He says lines look the same against the Bears, then I'll be worried. Exactly, me too. Look, I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy game. Now, the Bears were missing Jalen Johnson and their other corner in this game. So two of their best corners in this game were out against the Vikings. I have no idea if they're going to be back. No, I have no. We don't know yet. We'll start, finding that stuff out tomorrow. All right, let me get off the soapbox for a minute. Let's dive into last night for just a moment. I've been hearing all season long that JJ McCarthy is this elite quarterback. I know all of you U of M fans, you have a hard time with saying anything but nice things about your team. I separate Saturdays from Sundays. I do not let it wash over. I don't let them. It's like oil and water to me, man. They don't mix. The minute that player becomes an NFL player, it's done. It's over. I don't care about whatever college they played for. I mean, hell, Aiden Hutchinson hasn't even been back to U of M. That's how much he cares. And he's right down the road. That's what's baffling to me. It's baffling. He hasn't even been back to his school. All right, first three quarters were not good for Minnesota last night. Defensively was better after the first quarter. Offensively, the Vikings looked like trash last night. So you can't tell me that JJ McCarthy is elite when the first three quarters went that badly. But McCarthy did lead the Vikings to a thrilling comeback last night. But it wasn't all him. And I want to make sure that we're absolutely clear here. It was not all J.J. McCarthy that did this. McCarthy was having some trouble last night. Now, even though he did come back 21 points in the fourth quarter, how did it start, right? How did it start? That's the question. Do you remember how it started last night? He was having some trouble, in this game. The Bears defense, obviously led by Dennis Allen, who I believe is one of the better defensive coordinators out there. He was drawing up the right pressure. He was flustering McCarthy often. They were only able to get Will Reichard into almost field goal position, and Reichard just knocked him. I mean, he knocked some really big field goals last night. Caleb Williams of the Bears offense got off to a hot start in the first quarter, or first drive or so, and then they sputtered out. As soon as the Vikings were able to kind of figure out what they were going to do against the Bears, I mean, let's be honest. What you're going to see out of Ben Johnson is the same crap that you've seen from the Detroit Lions. It's the same offense. I saw Detroit Lions offense last night, is what I saw, which should make it that much easier for the NFC North. If Ben thought that he was just going to copy, paste, right, and just change the font a little bit, ain't going to work. Not going to work. Yep, JJ threw a pick six last night. That didn't look good. But it was crunch time, right? They're down 17-6. McCarthy did have some good balls, man. I mean, he threw some beautiful passes. But it started with a 6-play drive. He fired a bullet to the front end of the end zone. Justin Jefferson caught the ball, touchdown. Right? The Vikings kept up on the pressure on Caleb Williams to give McCarthy another chance. That defense gave them the shot. Had the defense not been there, the Bears win that game last night. And the storyline would have been McCarthy stumbles. Pick 6. That's your headline of the day today. But this is what happened. This is how it got started. A very, very, very generous defensive pass interference call. And then he launches a really nice ball to Aaron Jones for the lead, 20-17. And then a successful 2-point conversion. Very generous pass interference call. The calls that the Lions don't get. I'll just put it that way. The dagger, obviously, in this come-from-behind win last night for JJ was the 9-play drive that did end with a 14-yard touchdown run by McCarthy. That was a beautiful thing to see from the young guy. He kept the ball on a 3rd and 1, read option, Chicago's 14-yard line. He barrels his way into the corner of the end zone. Great play by the kid. But you remember what I've been saying all offseason and into the preseason? What does J.J. McCarthy not do in the fourth quarter? He doesn't throw the football. He doesn't win by using his arm. He used his feet in this game. He used his feet at U of M. He handed the ball off at U of M in the fourth quarter. And last night was the same. Take a look at the stats from last night. I mean, it's not great. 13 of 20, 143 yards of passing. That's a bit concerning. 143, 7.2 average, 2 TDs, 1 interception that was returned for a pick 6. He took 3 sacks of 9 yards, 52.6 QBR, 98.5 rating. Jordan Mason, thank God I picked him up in a couple of my fantasies. 15 carries, 68 yards. Look, I think that Jordan Mason is probably going to be one of the better running backs this season, and he could be better than Jones. Jones didn't look great. 8 of 23 on the night. J.J. McCarthy ran 2 times for 25 yards, one of which was a TD. Aaron Jones was good in the pass game, though. He did light it up, 3 for 44. He equaled Justin Jefferson, who had 4 for 44. Jalen Naylor had 1 for 28. Both Jones and Jefferson did score touchdowns in the receiving game. TJ Hawkinson looks like TJ Hawkinson, man. 3 of 15. Jordan Mason caught a ball. Josh Oliver caught a ball, but only 13 receptions last night on 20 passes by J.J. McCarthy. Defense for the Vikings looked good. They looked real good. The big stat of the night, 6 TFLs. You know, I talk about TFLs a lot on this channel because I do believe that TFLs are the most important stat on the defense. I don't care about sacks. You give me the TFLs, you're going to win a lot of football games. On the other side, Caleb Williams, 21 of 35. He started out 6 for 6. I mean, he was on a tear. He was looking good, zipping that ball around. The defense had to adjust. That Vikings defense was porous last night. They couldn't contain, they couldn't stop, they couldn't do anything. But it just took O'Connell a little bit to finally tighten the purse strings a little bit. 210 yards for Caleb Williams last night. No interceptions. I'm surprised there. He threw some questionable footballs. Caleb Williams also put 58 yards on the ground. Ran the ball 6 times. DeAndre Swift was having a pretty decent game, but he touched the ball 17 times for 53 yards. That is a very low average. DJ Moore also got in the rushing game. 3 balls, 8 yards. Try to use DJ Moore as Jamison Williams around the corner. Come on. Come on, Ben. DJ Moore, 3 catches, 68 yards. Olamide Zacchaeus, I can't say his last name. Olamide Z, 4 for 42. Roma Dunze, 6 of 37. Cole Kmet, 1 of 31. That was a beautiful ball there. Colston Loveland barely did anything. 2 of 12. DeAndre Swift caught 3 balls for 12. Kyle Menangi and Luther Burden also got in the game. Burden, -3 yards on the night. -3 yards. Trying to use them around the line of scrimmage did not work out well. Biggest miss for Brad Holmes, Noah Sewell. Biggest miss for Brad Holmes. You should have brought the kid in. I'm sorry, man. Noah Sewell's looking great. He's looking great, and he's a Sewell. Like, what were you thinking? You should have brought the kid in. 9 total tackles last night for the kid. Tremaine Edmonds, decent night last night, 7 tackles. Nashawn Wright, TFL. Javon Dexter, one of my favorite defensive tackles out of the draft a couple of seasons ago, was a player that I wanted the Lions to snatch up, and they didn't. You know, if you go back and you look at some of the drafts that I put together, man, this defense would be totally different right now. It would be totally different right now. We would have players like Javon Dexter and Kobe Turner and Jared Verse on this roster today. Wouldn't have Jack Campbell on it probably because we would have missed that opportunity. But it would have been a much different defense. We wouldn't have had to worry about players getting injured because the players that I would have wanted haven't been injured yet. Be interesting to go back and look at all the drafts that I put together and see what exactly the defense would have looked like. Maybe when I get some time, I'll do that. So that's your NFC North update. That's really all I wanted to chat about outside of the fact that last night, I think it affirmed a few things for us. Ben Johnson didn't change a damn thing. Nothing. Same offense. I mean, it's literally copy and paste. The Lions should be able to defend that. Now, Ben's probably been developing a plan just for the Lions. He's probably been doing it since March. It's probably going to look a lot different. Now, I guarantee it's going to look a lot different on this weekend. But I don't think it's going to be that different. The Bears are going to get better this week. The Lions are going to get better this week. It's just who's going to get better faster. I will say this. The Bears did look way more polished last night than I expected. Their offensive line could move the ball. But then at points they couldn't. And Caleb was under pressure. Let's bring in the pressure stats. I'm curious to see what happened on both sides of the football. And then I'll jump back into the chat here in just one sec. Come on, there we go, games. Okay, J.J. McCarthy, 7 quarterback pressures last night, 3 sacks, had 2.94 seconds time to throw. Completion percentage, 65%. Caleb Williams on the other side suffered 2 sacks, 15 quarterback pressures last night, 3.04 in time to throw. So both Caleb Williams and Jared Goff, two players this week that had, the most time to throw, but they just didn't do enough with the ball, right? Nothing was open downfield. The Bears' offensive line giving up 15 pressures. That's not great, right? That's not good enough. That's not good enough. All right, here's the rest of your NFC North report. I forgot. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I put together. All right, Chicago Bears game performance. Obviously, the Bears week 1 was defined by both promise and failure, right? We were expecting a lot this week just to see what Ben Johnson was going to put together, but it was also a familiar disappointment for the Chicago Bears. 27-24 loss. The score doesn't justify the game. Ben Johnson, I mean, I think the Bears offense saw an immediate improvement in areas that maybe has plagued that team throughout the last 2-3 seasons. Caleb Williams led Chicago down the field on the opening drive. Not only recorded his first career opening drive touchdown, like that didn't happen all last season, but also breaking a years-long drought for the Bears on such drives. Williams completed his first 10 passes last night. And immediately I was getting text messages. Look how good Caleb Williams is. Oh man, Lions fans, they love to have Caleb Williams. I'm sure some of you would. Simply because he's mobile. But just because he's mobile doesn't mean that he has it up here. Anyway, 10 passes last night in a row. It's a feat that has not been achieved by a Bears quarterback to start a season since 1978. But you know what? Jared Goff has done that so many times. Statistically last night, Chicago outgained Minnesota 317 total yards. 198 in the passing game. Actually, let me just double check that. Hold on. Let me double check myself here. Let's see here. Yeah, it's close. I had 210, but I forgot there were some negative plays. So the Bears did outpace the Vikings last night, 198 in passing, 119 rushing, and they matched the Vikings on third down conversions. Both teams were 3 of 12, 25%. That's not going to win football games. Now, the Lions didn't look good either in third down and fourth down conversions. I don't know a lot of teams that did look good this weekend. It's the opening week. The Bears held a 17-6 lead late into the third quarter, thanks to, in part, by a 9-yard rushing touchdown by Caleb Williams and a momentum swing, the pick six, by cornerback Nashawn Wright, who jumped the sideline route intended for Justin Jefferson, took it 74 yards to the house. That was a big play, man. Big play. Key plays, team execution. Chicago's execution displayed a significant first half rhythm. I mean, they look good, man. They look like they were humming on all cylinders. Williams operated very efficiently. He executed Ben Johnson's timing-based attack, prioritized short passes, and play action. Man, allergies are just terrible today. Hold on. I don't know if any of you guys have fall allergies, but it seems like the fall is the worst for me. The summer was bad this year, but the fall just it gets even worse, man. The more I get older, the worse it gets. On the opening drive, again, Williams mixed short throws, timely scrambles that culminated in that 9-yard TD run. The drive appeared carefully scripted. It looks like Ben Johnson had a plan, and they executed that plan. But once that plan was kind of done, that's when things kind of fell apart. That's when things kind of fell apart for the Bears. As the game progressed into the second half, the Bears offense completely sputtered out, man. They ran out of gas. Penalties, missed field goals, inability to adapt to Minnesota's defensive pressure, just stalled repeated drives. The Bears faced some notable health concerns entering the game. Obviously, linebacker TJ Edwards had a hamstring injury. Tremaine Edmonds obviously forced him into the central linebacker role. The secondary was also depleted. Both Jalen Johnson and was it Blackwell, I think, that was listed with a groin injury. Running back Rashawn Johnson was questionable with a foot injury, but he was available, I guess. And then the rookie Kyle Mananji progressed to full participation before the game, post his hamstring tweak. He got involved in the game last night. Most Bears-centric outlets and analysts, Bears Wire, ESPN, The Athletic, you name it, they emphasized all of the optimism surrounding Caleb Williams and his offseason. Many noted that the Bears, despite not being viewed as divisional favorites, are likely to be a tough out all year. They look good at times. If Ben can improve week to week to week, and stretch a good first half into a good third quarter and a good third quarter into a good fourth quarter, they're going to be a tough team. It takes a lot to get there. It took the Lions, 2 seasons. And honestly, it was probably 2.5 seasons before you started to see all 4 quarters start to click. Now, there is a segment that we missed this week. It's a segment that is going to be covered in the post-game show, and it's called the Morton Effect. Now, the Morton Effect, we'll cover it, like I said, in the post-game show. We're also going to cover it on the day following the Lions game. And I want to look at Morton versus Ben Johnson coming out of the half into the third quarter. Will Morton be able to give the Lions an opportunity to put points on the board in a quarter that the Lions have struggled with mightily throughout the entire time that Dan Campbell's been the head coach? There were some times last season where it got better. And obviously the first game this week, against the Packers, the Lions couldn't do anything. So no, the third quarter looked terrible. But now that we have some stats to go off from in week 1, next week, when we get into the Morton Effect, we'll have some things to kind of bank on. So that is going to be something that we watch closely throughout the season. Let's see, where's the rest of it? Give me one sec. All right, for the Vikings, obviously the Vikings staged one of the most dramatic comebacks in recent franchise memory. They defeated, obviously, the Bears this last night, 27-24 on Monday Night Football. J.J. McCarthy making his first NFL debut, missed all of last season to injury, became the first quarterback in league history to account for 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns in their first NFL game in 2025. He finished 13 of 20, 143, 2 touchdown passes, 1 on the ground, 1 interception, pick 6. And if it wasn't for that very generous pass interference, this is a different game. Minnesota's offense managed 254 yards last night, 134 passing, 120 rushing. Very, very balanced approach by Kevin O'Connell. Early on, Minnesota's offense was clearly protecting J.J. McCarthy, trying to keep things under control. He ran the ball heavily, with limited success behind this reshuffled offensive line. Obviously, with Christian Darrisaw, their star left tackle, returned from injury, but played in limited reps. O'Connell did turn to McCarthy, finally. He was initially conservative, but a third quarter interception, returned 74 yards for a Bears TD, forced the Vikings to finally open things up. And then what followed was an avalanche. 13-yard TD to Jefferson, 27-yard strike to Aaron Jones, finally taking the lead with a 2-point conversion to Adam Thielen, and then a game-sealing 14-yard read option run by McCarthy. Now that's your NFC North report. Now we're finally complete. I'm not going to go into the Lions of Packers. I think that we've kind of beat that one to death yesterday. So now I'd like to open up the chat. Let me get my chat back open here. And then I do want to try to open up the phone lines here in just a few moments. It's going to be a test. I tried testing it again. I think we did okay the other day. The phone lines were working pretty good. But it's a crapshoot. That I messed with everything last night, trying to get it figured out. Are the Bears a better team than the Lions? 101 votes today. 77% of you say no. 23% say yes. So my question is, do we have 23% of Bears fans in the house today? Do we have 23% of Caleb Williams fans? 23% of Jared Goff haters? 23% of SOL? Like, what is it? What's that 23%? I would have to, if I could put my vote in there, I would say no. 1,000%. Until you beat us, you're not better than us. The Packers beat us in week 1. Right now, they're better than us in 2025. But over the last 3 seasons, no, they're not. They're not a better team. But anything can change in any year. Whoever made the best moves, well, what I kept hearing last night, the comments that I kept getting is, and I don't care what video it is, all I see is edge. We needed an edge. And I said, okay, this is going to piss you guys off, but I'm going to say it anyway. If we needed an edge in the other night's game, it would not have been Marcus Davenport you're taking out. It would have been Aiden Hutchinson. He played terribly. Marcus Davenport actually played a fairly decent game. Now, did he get a sack? No. Was there an overwhelming amount of pressure on the quarterback? No. But did he let any big runs? Nope. Did he shut down the run game? Yep. Did he register some tackles and some stuffs? Yep. Did Aiden? No. Aiden was blanked. And I did have an opportunity to watch some of the tape last night, and I am going to do some cut-ups today. And when I do some cut-ups today, look, there's going to be some things that you guys are not going to like about Aiden Hutchinson's performance. There's going to be some things you don't like about Davenport's performance. Matter of fact, there's going to be some things that you don't like about everyone's performance. This is a team game. And that's why I'm saying there's not any one person that needed to play better in this game. The whole frickin' team laid an egg. They looked terrible. They did not look ready. And so that's probably where I'm going to head next is I'm sorry. I'm calling Dan out on this one thing. I have to. And here's hold on here. What did Lou Wesley to say? Goff couldn't take at least one shot downfield. Leader of the team has no say-so? I don't know what you mean by that. I will say this, though. The Jared Goff does have more control over the offense this year because Knucklehead is up in the box. So Jared Goff does have to have more options, while he's either A in the huddle or B on, up on the line to call whatever he can call. That's totally up to Goff to call. He gets options to call. But to not throw it downfield, yeah, I was highly disappointed too. I didn't see a whole lot of receivers get open. That's the thing. I've never seen it before. I've never seen, where guys were not open. But the thing that I think really shook Goff in this game, the interior pressure up the middle. What did I say before the game last week? If the pressure's coming from the outside, that doesn't bother Goff as much. The pressure coming through the A and the B gap, that's what gets to Goff. I mean, it's what gets to most quarterbacks. Goff did not have any time. You know, it didn't shake him. It didn't shake him like he was scared. No, that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. Pressure never has shaken Goff. The issue that Goff had was there was some pressure coming through the middle. He couldn't get the ball downfield. He had to worry more about the failures of the interior of the offensive line rather than getting the ball downfield. But this is also a John Morton failure. John Morton was calling plays, and I don't know what plays he called, but I'm just going to guess from what I saw, all this short stuff, that was by design. That was not because Goff couldn't take a shot downfield all the time. That was by design. Just go watch the receiver routes. Look at you know what? I think I have a route tree, as a matter of fact. Hold on. Give me just a second here. Oh, they're not all in here, though. Why? Why are they not? This is so stupid. I get Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, and Jared Goff. Where's the rest? They're not in there. Well, I hope that they end up in here, but we have 0 player charts. I mean, of course, Sam Laporta went down the field a little bit. That's why Jared Goff was able to find him. And when things start working like that, it begs the question, why weren't you doing more of that, right? But if you go look at the route tree, which you can't see it on a chart because it's not ready, you have to watch the tape, everything was short. Well, not everything. A lot of it was short. Blew my mind. So it's not all Goff's fault. But if you just look at where he peppered, you know, where he peppered these guys, where the ball went. Here, I'll pull it up. I think I showed you guys this yesterday. But I'll show you again, just for anybody that missed it yesterday. Here we go. Getting closer here. While I got dead air here, I did finish. So every week, Rock's Locks will be printed or put in publication so that you guys can follow along. So just like, you know, everyone else does, you know, with the NFL, all the analysts, they put their game picks up every week. They pick the entire league. What I'm doing is I'm putting it on DraftKings. I do a 50-cent bet. So it's usually worth anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 a week. And I'm doing that so that it captures, you know, my picks, the time when I made them. You know what I'm saying? So there's proof of when I made them. Also, I want to win because I want to put the money into the Rockdown Cancer Foundation. So that is printed. It is available. You can see what I did last, you know, this past week, the first week. Pretty good, man. I was happy. All right, now you can probably hear me. This is Jared Goff's first week of passing. I mean, you can see the 5-yard line is just peppered. The first 5 yards is about 85%, maybe 87%, maybe 6 yards, 87% of his passes. There was literally 4 plays between, or 4 passes between 10 and 15 yards out. There was only 3 plays beyond 15 yards. One between right around the 15-yard line, or 15 yards out. There was one play that was at 21 yards, and then there was a third play off to the right corner there that was right at 20 yards. So when John Morton talks about explosives, he imploded. I said that yesterday. I tried putting some shorts together. He absolutely imploded. There was nothing explosive about this week's game. It was terrible. Detroit Football Journal, click on the QR code. It is free to sign up. It is free and for limited time only. You know, the paywall is available. After 7 days, I think it goes to paywall. Let's take a look at yesterday's final. Rocks, locks, here we go. Let me see if I can fix this up a little bit so it'll look a little bit better. I see your question in there. Please do me a favor this morning. If you have some questions that you'd like to get answered, or I'll do my best anyway. Put them in all caps. Obviously, tag the channel. That's the best and easiest way for me to see if you're trying to communicate with me this morning. And then please do us a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel today. If you guys are new, we'd love to have you in, man. The road to the Super Bowl starts right here. Yes, I still believe the Lions can do it. Exfilio says, don't you believe the game plan was to get the ball out quickly due to the added and unseen pressure of the added rushing ability by Micah? Not really, honestly, because I don't think that they knew how many snaps that he was going to get or not going to get, right? So I don't think so. He wasn't in the game, right? Until like the end of, I don't know, was it the last... It was definitely the fourth quarter. I think he had his most snaps, but through the first half, I think he had 1 snap, maybe 2. So I don't think so. And the reason why I say that, Exfilio, is we played the Cowboys plenty of times, and man, did we go downfield often. So Micah Parsons is not like he's not that concerning to me. He's really not. Sorry. That's just how I feel. Whoops, I totally just clicked out of that. There we go. Let's do a quick recap of Rocks Locks for the week. Hopefully you all like my little graphic there. I spent some time on that yesterday. It is what it is. It'll get better over time. All right, week 1. Here's what it says. Each week, me, myself, and I will rocks, locks, and straight up winners and losers. I don't know why I wrote it that way. Apparently, I need to go back and rewrite that at 1 o'clock in the morning or whenever I was writing. It was making sense then, but it sure as hell doesn't make sense right there. Anyway, the goal is I'm going to pick straight up winners and losers across the NFL slate with a 16-leg parlay, adjusted for bye weeks, obviously, shortened schedules. A small wager, 50 cents, maybe $1 at most, will be played on DraftKings. That way we get the timestamp to preserve each pick with the money line at the time of the selection, which determines whether or not that this was an upset call or not. Okay? If any weekly parlay hits, all end of the season proceeds will be donated to the Rockhound Cancer Foundation. Rocks Locks wins loss for the week. I went 12-4. That's a pretty good week, especially seeing how the opening week is always the hardest. You have no clue what these teams are going to be like. I picked the Eagles. I picked the Chargers in an upset. I picked the Colts. I did pick the Jets, and my goodness, what a close game that was. I picked the Jags. I picked the Cardinals, the Commanders, the Bucks, the Bengals, the Raiders in an upset. I picked the Seahawks. That was my second loss of the week. I picked the Broncos. Of course, I picked our Detroit Lions. And I picked the Texans. Those are my next two losses. That made 4 losses on the week. I picked the Bills and the Vikings. And then there's your proof. That's the parlay that was laid. The 50-cent wager. I think it was worth about $4,000 or something crazy like that. I don't know. I don't know the math. Weekly summary. I was pretty happy with the way that the NFL opening week finished, minus the Lions losing, of course. Week 1 is always a minefield. New schemes, unknown roles, and teams still finding their identity. Despite the chaos, I felt solid about my picks. I correctly called 2 upsets in a week defined by razor-thin margins. Unpredictable finishes. The average margin of victory in week 1 was just plus 7.8125. Most games were decided by less than 8 points. You had 9 games, more than half the games decided by less than a touchdown. 6 points or fewer. 5 games coming to a field goal or less. Out of the 4 misses that I had, the Detroit Lions took the hardest hit, falling by 14. The other 3 losses were all within 5 points. Tight enough to sting, but not enough to shake the confidence in the process moving into week 2. Stay in the game with us. We love to have you guys around all season long. Coming up next, we're going to dig into the rest of the NFL headlines. It's game time, Detroit, and you found the right place for the latest Detroit Lions news. So hop on in and take the ride to Super Bowl 60 with Rockhound Detroit Lions. Join Will Rock, Eric Rintamaki, and Riley O'Brien today on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Good morning. Like I said, it's a solo show today. Eric will be back next week. He's traveling to Denver. He has some business stuff to take care of. I'm sure he's going to be doing a little playing out there too. Riley's getting back into the swing of things, I'm sure. It'll take a couple of weeks, I'm sure, to get his sea legs back, man. This is not easy if you've never done it before. Getting up on a mic, waking up at 5 o'clock every day to hit the microphone by 8 a.m., it takes some 12-round training, man. It took me a while to be able to do this, especially after battling, thyroid cancer, and I still battle. My throat gives out, man. The nerves in my throat give out. That's why you always see me trying to struggle swallowing. It's if I'd ever explained that when I'm struggling to swallow or talk, that's why. When I'm yawning a lot, that's why. It's nothing else. That's all it is. It's just post-cancer battle stuff, man. It's just part of the fight. But I'd rather be right here, right now, than anywhere else. All right, what's on your guys' mind today? What would you like to talk about? I do want to get into some headlines from around the league. I think we've kind of covered the NFC North pretty good this morning. I mean, if I were to take a look back at week 1, I will say that the Lions obviously have a lot to clean up. I do believe the offensive line is a lot easier to clean up than anything else. The defense, I'm not so sure what the hell happened there. That's going to take a little bit more study and time. Maybe all 22 is going to get an opportunity to give us his 30-minute update this week. That's the goal, is to have him pop in for 30 minutes a week and kind of give us a rundown. It's going to be a schedule balancing act. We'll see if we can pull it off. Obviously, you guys know where to go. All 22 films on YouTube. He'll put out plenty of content for your Detroit Lions stuff. He'll get you guys up to speed on anything that he sees. Being a coach himself, high-level coach, knows what he's talking about. Has a lot of great information. That's why I trust, certain people that we bring in, like Timothy Brandon. He's a coach out in California. trust a lot of what these guys say. You know, they're seeing it every day on the field. They understand the new nuances to the game. They maybe not be NFL coaches, but they've seen it at a high level. Coaching is coaching. I'd say if you're in the game coaching today, it doesn't matter what level you're coaching. Everyone's trying to do the same thing. I'm not shaken. Week 1 of the NFL is week 1. It's tough. You don't know who you are yet. You don't know what your identity is. Throughout the preseason, throughout training camp, you're working on that. You're setting that identity. You know what you want to do, but you don't know how it's going to work out yet. In learning the other teams, I mean, the divisional games are the hardest games. Always have been, always will be. These are 50-50 coin flips. Most of the time. They can go in any direction. I don't care how good your team is. You know each other, right? It's a little bit different for Ben because he's the new head coach. But then again, is it really different for Ben? He's been coaching in the NFC North for the last several seasons. Ben's going to have a very good pulse on the Detroit Lions this weekend. It's just going to come down to execution. Is he going to crack under pressure of the bright lights of Ford Field? And you all have to do me a huge favor. When you go to the game this weekend, I'll obviously be there. You better boo as loud as you can when Ben Johnson enters that field. Boo like crazy. And I wish that, you know, the Lions would do something fun. I feel like they don't plan enough for some of this stuff. Maybe because they have to follow some league guidelines. Go pick up yourself a Detroit Free Press on the way to the game or the day before. Bring it with you. When Ben gets on, start reading that newspaper. Right? When the Bears come on, start reading the newspaper. Those were some of the most electric moments. We used to do that stuff at high school games, right? Even college. It's the most disrespectful thing that you can do. At the same time, it's still a little bit fun. Again, if there's a printing company out there that I could work with, man, I'd love to have a piece of newspaper that on the front says F the Bears, right? With a picture of Ben Johnson and a big old middle finger. I know that's a little disrespectful, but that'd be funny. That would be hilarious. One sec. Gotta do audio check. Yeah, I added all these inputs, audio inputs, and it must be carrying over from another scene. Has that been going on the whole time, Trace? Let me know. Let me know if it gets better. I got to quit messing with stuff. Some point we'll get it figured out. NFC North is wide open, man. It's nothing is lost yet. So for all of the SOL fans out there and all the bandwagon jumpers that have nothing but hate in their hearts and can't ever find a way out of a paper bag, nothing's changed for this team. Nothing has changed. There was just an update. Give me one sec. Something just popped across my feed. This heavy on Lions, I don't know who these people are, like personally, obviously, but to see things like Lions coach Dan Campbell faces a warning after the Packers blowout. What was the warning? Dan Campbell then fires a warning in response to John Morton's play calling? No, he didn't. I just don't understand it. I really don't. I do not understand it. All right, looks like we have some breaking news. Hold on here. Hold the phone. All right. Let's see what this is all about. Well, it's not so much breaking it. It broke earlier this morning. I just missed it while I was getting ready. You guys might have already seen it. We'll talk about it anyway. All right. I think we're good now. Sorry, it's a little tough some days when you try to do all these different things live with only by yourself to have all this stuff lined up, but we do the best we can. Well, that didn't work out. Anyway, your Detroit Lions have some news this morning, bringing in an offensive tackle. Let's go to the screen. As reported by Pride of Detroit and everybody else this morning, the Detroit Lions are adding a massive offensive tackle to the roster. Obviously, on Monday, the Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell revealed that Jamarco Jones was out for the season with an ankle injury suffered during last week's practice. Now, there was some confusion yesterday, reported by, might have been NFL.com. They reported that Jamarco Jones had suffered an ankle injury early in the first quarter of the Detroit Lions game versus the Packers. Well, Jamarco Jones was never at the game. He was on IR before the game. So he did not play. If you guys saw that update, he did not play this weekend. He was placed on IR before Sunday's game, but it was Monday that it was reported that he is now out for the season. Now, according to Devin Cochran, offensive tackle, and his agency, he is signed with the Detroit Lions. At this point, because the transaction is unofficial, it's unclear if Cochran is signed to the 53-man roster or the practice squad. There is an open spot on the practice squad after the Lions signed running back Jacob Sailors to the active roster on Saturday. But if the Lions were to sign Cochran to the 53-man roster, it would require a corresponding move, as the Lions are currently at the maximum of 53 players. Now, Cochran is a massive human being at 6'7", 330 pounds, nearly matching the size of Giovanni Manu. He went undrafted in 2022. He spent the next 3 seasons with Cincinnati. His first season was entirely on the practice squad. He lost his 23 season due to a knee injury. Devin Cochran, here's his RAS score, 9.16 prospect in 2022's draft class. He scored a 9.16 RAS out of a possible of 10. This ranked 103 out of 1,215 offensive tackles from 1987 to 2022. We know how the Detroit Lions not only love smart guys, but they also love guys that measure well and test well. Clearly, he did that. Now, last year, Cochran was finally called up from the practice squad. He made a 9-game appearance for Cincinnati, including 1 start at left tackle. He logged 83 snaps at right tackle as a mid-game fill-in over 3 games. And over 100 pass blocking snaps. PFF charged him with 8 pressures allowed and only 1 sack and a 50.8 pass blocking grade, which is not good at all. It's terrible. Per PFF, he was slightly more successful, over 52 run blocking snaps, earning a 57.5 grade. Now, Cochran did not make the 53-man roster here in 2025, but he did sign with their practice squad initially. However, he was cut shortly after. The Lions currently going through some depth issues at offensive tackle with Jones out for the year, and practice squad Dan Skipper is likely their best option, but he missed all of last week's practice with an undisclosed injury. That left second-year developmental tackle Giovanni Manu the only man left. There'll be more updates. This is brought to you by Pride of Detroit. All right. Vincent Soames, you are 1,000% wrong, brother. Parsons played snaps the whole game. No, he did not. Parsons barely played in the first half. He played a lot more in the second half. And you might be a little bit behind here on, you must be at the very beginning of the show today. Let me actually go ahead and find his snap counts. 28 snap counts. 28. So he played half. Half the snaps. So he didn't play the whole game. Let me see if I can actually find the breakdown by quarter. I don't even know if they have that anymore. They might not. Not that it matters. He's going to end up playing. Actually, he played 45% of the snaps. 45. Not half. And again, I know from watching the game, the majority of his snaps happened in the second half. I don't know what you're talking about. He played more than 2 snaps. Did I say he only played 2 snaps? Or did I say that he played 2 snaps in the first half? He was not on the field much at all in the first half. They saved him for the second half. And Parsons is not the reason why the Lions played bad either. He affected like maybe 2-3 plays. The sack, the cheap sack on Goff, I mean, that the Goff was running out of bounds. I'm really not worried about that. Really not. And I'm going to stick to that, Vincent. 2 snaps in the first half. Absolutely. It was probably less than 5. Wasn't enough. Wasn't enough to affect the game. Trying to pull up some information on this Cochran guy here. All right, Devin Cochran. I'm going to have to go back to last season. Looks like he played a large portion of week 15, 16, and 17 last year. Yeah, we can just kind of run through it together. All right, let's pull this in. Man, that looks tiny. All right. Well, anyway, what you're going to see here, it looks like we're going to have a echo again. What you're going to see here is he got in largely the 15th, week 15, 16, and 17. Let's go to his offensive grades. I mean, not great. His overall grade, 50.6. Pass block, 50.8. Run block, 57.5. Season grades, obviously not much better. I mean, he's at the bottom of the barrel, but this is kind of what you're going to get. This is what's available. 152 total snaps last season. Clearly, he's a developmental piece. He was listed as 6'7", 310. And according to Pride of Detroit, he's closer to 330. Here's his pass blocking sheet. He allowed 1 sack, 2 hits, 5 hurries, and only 8 pressures on 100 snaps in pass blocking reps. True pass sets, 38. And out of 38 true pass sets, he scored 100%. It's not letting me pull this over. Anyway, in the true pass set, he allowed 1 sack, 2 hits, 2 hurries, and 5 pressures. I mean, that's not terrible. He just needs more reps. You know, my biggest concern is what's going on with Skipper. That's my biggest concern. All right, so really not much to see here. Let's go to 23 real quick. Let's see what we can find there. There's probably not a whole lot. Yeah, that's right. He missed 23 with a knee injury. Let's go to 22 when he came into the league. Yeah, nothing there either. So that's your update here on Mr. Cochran. Not a whole lot. So my biggest question is about Dan Skipper. You know, what's going on? Undisclosed injury is what they're calling it. Is Dan Skipper considering an in-season retirement? He didn't make the roster. He's obviously not happy about that. I mean, he just disappeared. As soon as 53-man cuts happened, he just disappeared. And really nothing was talked about. Looks like we had a knucklehead in the chat. Okay. Nothing has been talked about with Dan Skipper. Obviously, Dan was a vital piece. I mean, he's a fan favorite, but we got to be careful about fan favorites, and then also, you know, a guy that can actually play, right? Can actually play. The Lions are clearly going into a direction of putting good football players on the team. You need the glue guys. You absolutely need the glue guys, but this roster is so deep now, and it is so tough to make this roster. You need guys that can play. Dan looked really rigid this year, really stiff, and he was getting beat often. That what I noticed in practice did not look great. So I would say that maybe there's a possibility that he doesn't want to play. I don't know. I'm not saying that any of this has been reported, because it hasn't. But what hasn't been reported is what's concerning. What is this injury? This mythical injury? Because last week, as reported, he was just missing from practice. And that was about it. Let me try to go back and find some info on this. I'm going to try to find the article that initially said this. I don't remember who put it out. Yeah, I'm not going to find it quickly. You know, in Monday's press conference, you know, Dan Campbell had mentioned a couple of things, and I swear he mentioned Dan Skipper. Anyway, we'll move on. All right, let's talk about Aiden Hutchinson for a moment. Now, this whole offseason, during the preseason, we heard that the Hutch rule was in effect, that Aiden was playing completely out of his mind, was beating Penei Sewell consistently. And initially after the game, what do we hear, right, from fans? It's, well, I told you so. We needed another edge. No, we didn't. What we needed is the edge that we have to win. Aiden did not look good. You hear fans that'll say, well, Aiden was getting double teamed. Yeah, he wasn't the entire time. And when he wasn't double teamed, he was not winning his one-on-ones. He was completely locked up. I think he was also misused a little bit. I don't know what in the world that Calvin Shepard was thinking about dropping some of these guys into coverage. These are not linebackers, right? These guys cannot cover tight ends downfield. You know, laterally from the end to the sideline, sure. You know, you can use them in that sort of a space, but even that's not their job. That's the nickelback, or that's the slot corner, or, you know, the corner that's on that side, or the safety coming down, the box safety. That is not the defensive end's responsibility. Now, I do believe that the difference with this year's defense from what we saw, you know, over the weekend is exactly what I've been saying for a few months now. When we went to camp, I saw more linebacker play. I saw more blitz concept and blitz packaging coming from different areas of the defense. We saw that on Sunday. It's exactly what we saw. But putting these guys downfield is not the answer. And getting them to win in their one-on-ones, like Dan Campbell said in the press conference yesterday, is exactly the thing that has been a problem. Aiden doesn't always win his one-on-ones. And if he can't win one-on-ones, you're not going to expect him to beat a double team. And this has probably been my biggest argument about Aiden Hutchinson, is that Myles Garrett beats double teams often. Aiden does not. And I think that they're two totally different caliber of football player. If Aiden just had arms that were maybe 2 inches longer and a wingspan that was, you know, 4 or 5 inches longer, it's a totally different conversation. If you can't get a long arm stab as you're trying to round the corner and get that tackle away from you, and you let that tackle get up inside your shoulder pads, inside your shoulders, you're cooked. It's over. I don't care who you are. Aiden's a strong dude. He is. Right? He's got some nifty moves. And the reason why, and again, this is not a Hutch bash session at all. This is just we're having a conversation. The reason why players develop pass rush moves, technique, especially things like a spin move, is because they're lacking somewhere else. Davenport has the long arms, the bigger size, strength. He has a good bull rush. He can long arm stab you. He doesn't have the bend that Aiden does. That's why Davenport is the big end in this 4-3 scheme. Aiden is the more of the speed end that's just super tall, right? I prefer my ends to be in that 6'4.5", 6'5.5" range with 34-inch arms, preferably 33.5 at a minimum. You know, with a 1.09 ape score, you know, where your wingspan is longer than your height, right? So your wingspan from center breastplate to the tips of your fingers on both sides, if that's equal to your height, that's not what the majority of elite defensive ends have. I've done all the math. You guys have seen the RAS that I've made for myself. My sheet that tracks all of these things has been almost spot on to which players we're going to develop into really good athletes at the next level. Coming out of college, I rank them, I watch them, we get all the measurements, I compare it to the tape, and then I make my final predictions. Time and time again, The guys that have the longer arms translate to the NFL and have better careers. Guys that have the bigger ape score translate to the NFL, have better careers. Just like they say about a defensive back. You could have a defensive back that is 5'9", 5'10", 185. But if he has extremely long arms and a big wingspan and a good ape score, he will translate better if he has the speed, if he has good fluidity in his hips, if he has good mirror match ability, if he has good instincts, if he's a good tackler, right? Those long arms will translate into the pass game because he's able to get in between the ball and the receiver. When you don't have those measurables, you have to do a lot more to win a rep. It takes more energy. And when it takes more energy, over time, you end up sputtering out throughout a game, right? And I'm not saying that Aiden's not the guy for us. That's not what I'm saying. Aiden has developed some traits. He's developed some techniques to help overcome some of his deficiencies. One of the only deficiencies that Aiden's had, he has two. And it's his body, right? He's a physical freak. He's a hell of a male specimen, right? 99.99% of guys out there would trade their body in for what Aiden has any given day. But the two things that he doesn't have that I see show up in tape and film is he has short arms and he has a short wingspan. He has a very low. He's the only, if you were to call him elite, he's the only elite defensive end whose ape score is upside down. No other defensive end has an upside down ape score. What do I mean by that? The ape score is your height divided by your wingspan. Okay? And then it gives you a number. 1.05 and higher to 1.07 is where most elite defensive ends live. The rare elite defensive ends are 1.07 to 1.11. And what that means is, on average in the NFL, your wingspan should be about 2 to 2.5 inches longer than your height. So if you're 6 foot tall, you're 72 inches. Your wingspan should be nothing less than 74 inches. That is about the average in the NFL for an elite specimen, right? That would translate to a 1.027 ape score. That is very low on the scale. Aiden has a 0.9, I think it's a 0.97 or a 0.98 ape score. His wingspan is shorter than his height. He's 6'7" or 6'6.5", and his wingspan is like 6'5.5". It's a whole inch shorter, as reported by the multiple outlets that do the measurements during the combine. That's what I see show up on film. So when you hear me say that he's getting locked up and he can't win his one-on-ones, 9 times out of 10, that's because he can't get away from them. He can't get distance. It's not that he can't do a crazy cool spin move and, find himself in the backfield. He can do that at times. But if you spin and you spin the wrong way and then the guard, slides over, you're now trapped. And you spun yourself out of the play because now you're locked up and they can just go right on the outside of the edge, for a big gaping, run downfield. So those are some of the things that I worry about with our ends. Davenport's physical, traits are fine. And he's already, game one in, and he's good, right? He's good. he had a decent game. It wasn't perfect. Obviously, wasn't perfect. But Davenport also has to, just like Aiden, he has to depend on the guys to his left or his right. And in this game, nobody was playing a good game. DJ Reader was getting thrown around. Tyleek Williams was not effective, as he will be. He will be more effective. He's also a rookie. But man, to see DJ Reader get thrown around, that was a bit concerning. And so if DJ Reader can't win his one-on-ones because Davenport's pulling a double team, then what? How are we going to affect the pocket? This is exactly why I say sacks really don't matter. Just get the TFL. Just shut the play down. And that's why I said that, I felt that Kelvin Shepard was going to... Oh, man, that Tesla play just popped up on my screen. That's also why, I say that it's going to take a minute for these guys, right? It will. This defense is going to take a minute. I think that Dan said it best yesterday when he said that maybe they put too much on their plate. They installed too much. Well, you know what, Dan? You've done that before. Last year you said that you intentionally didn't want to put too much on their plate. Right after you had a game where you said you put too much on their plate. So why did you do it in this game? You should have walked into this game with a skeleton version of your scheme so that these guys could play fast and know what they're doing. All right? Play fast and know what they're doing. Wonder U of M dad, Buck, just sent out a Lions membership to Richard Coffey. He received a membership. Appreciate you, U of M dad. Richard Coffey, welcome into the Rockhound Detroit Lions membership group. We'll play. I'll get these things lined up today, but I'll get you in here on... I'll get you in here on this one because this is a guy I'm worried about right now.
If he had to make the playoffs, maybe. Is an eligible receiver. Number 70 is eligible. Number 70 is eligible.
Where is number 70? Where is he? Where's Skipper? Anyway, I said all this to say that I expect things to get cleaned up. I expect Aiden to have a good season. Right? I do. And I expect him to terrorize, some of these tackles. But I want to go back to last season when Aiden jumped out to this amazing, just an amazing first few games. Don't kid yourself into thinking that that's what Aiden was going to do this year. Aiden went up against third-string offensive tackles and guards in those first 4 games. Every single team that we went up against were missing very valuable pieces of their offensive line. And the Lions took advantage of that. Aiden took advantage of that. He also had the majority of his sacks in one game. And that should be more concerning, right? If you really pay attention to stats than how a player is playing, what do you think the most important thing is? Let's do a poll real quick. Is that your husband, Brandy? Oh, is that why U of M dad wants a refund? Oh, that's great. By the way, members, we are at the end of a quarter, so October, November, December is our next quarter. So if you are owed coffee, that should be going out here pretty soon. If you guys do join the elite group, I promised you I was going to change memberships this year. While we're talking about memberships here for a moment, I'm probably going to go to like $1, $2, $3 memberships. And that is just to facilitate what group you're in. So if you're in the first group, it probably won't be 1, 2, and 3. It might be like 3, 6, and 9 or something. If you're in the first group, you're in the first group, right? You're in tier 1, tier 2, then tier 3 is the elite group. But to be in tier 3, you have to be in the other membership group, which will end up being on Buy Me a Coffee. And that is to receive your coffee. So you can be in the elite group on YouTube, but if you want to get the benefits of the elite box group, you have to be in the other one on Buy Me a Coffee. Those will be put together at some point today. Hopefully they'll be done. And the reason why is simply because of making sure that we're profitable. The plan is to help out Rockhound Cancer Foundation, right? It doesn't come to me. All right, the money doesn't come to me. Let's do a poll here. Now I forget what the poll was going to be. Hold on here. I got to think it through. Okay, here's the poll. What would be the most important characteristics for a player week to week? All right, what would be the most important characteristics? We'll go this way too. Well, that includes like stats. So we'll start with. Actually, no, I gotta pull stats out of there. Characteristics. Or yeah, for a player week to week. We'll go consistency, stats, and consistency will include availability and health. All right, stats is just stats. You know what that is. So stats are, and we're talking defense. So stats, sacks, tackles, etc. What should be the third one here? You know, we'll just roll with 2. We'll roll with 2. This should be an easy one. I wouldn't expect a lot of people to miss out on this one. This one's pretty easy. Mike P says, what I noticed most against Green Bay was they came in with the idea to stonewall our defensive ends and one-on-one against our tackles on passing downs. Okay, what was the outcome, Mike P? What was the outcome? Yes, Trace, coffee will be back. It's just we had to try to get. It's going to go like every quarter. You know what I mean? It is, as long as you're in the elite tier, we'll do it every quarter. So you'll get like three bags at once as opposed to 1. That way you're good. So it'll be backloaded, right? You pay 3 months in advance. You get your coffee in that 4th month. And then when the second quarter comes around, you get your 3 bags. You see what I'm saying? So it's backloaded. You got to pay for it, and then it goes out. I always send 1 up front, And so I have to change the terms and all that stuff too, so that everybody understands the change. It's just part of the terms and conditions. So consistency, availability, health, or stats, sacks, tackles, etc. What's the most important thing for a player? All right. What is the most important thing for a player from week to week? Obviously, availability is the most important thing, right? If you're not available, then you can't help your team. But what I keep hearing from a large portion of the fan base is stats. Stats. How many sacks is this player going to have? How many catches is this player going to have? How many, you know what I mean? How many rushing yards? Look, I put up, some of the silly things too, but I do it just to have fun with it. It seems like there's some people that's all they care about is just the stats, and that's it. And if you're a defensive end, I should have put a third one in there, which would have been, which probably would have been something having to do with the scheme, right? Understanding the scheme, playing within the scheme, things of that nature. You probably could have thrown that in there too as a third option. But when I keep hearing his stats, like all people care about is sacks. Okay. Well, use Aiden as an example. 7.5 sacks last year in 4.5 games. And it was 4.5 sacks that came, was it the Bucs game? Right? We lost that game. How did those 4.5 sacks help us? They didn't. We didn't win the game. But if you're consistent, right? You don't disappear for 3 or 4 games, and you're consistent week to week, I'd rather see you get a sack or a half a sack in every game and get a couple of TFLs every game, right? And be involved in shutting down the run game with a couple of stops, right? Not playing outside the scheme, not being a free bird out there. I'd rather see that week to week to week and we win the game than a guy that has 30 sacks in a season and we go 1-15. Because those 30 sacks didn't help us at all. At all. We didn't win any football games. So it's not about sacks. They're meaningless. It is the most over-glorified stat, I think, in the game. TFLs is the most important stat on the defense outside of a turnover, winning the turnover margin. I would say that those are the two most important things that any defense can control. If I were to give you like my top 4 or 5 things that I would coach hard, it would be scoring defense, keeping teams under 20 points. You guys saw how important that was last season. I mean, I didn't lie to you. I told you that when the Lions keep teams under 20 points, we're going to win the majority of football games. Did I lie? I didn't lie. It was a fact. We went 15-2. And we held, through the first 12 weeks before the Bills game, we held our opponents under 17 points collectively per game. The last 5 games of the season, we held our opponents to 25, I think, 0.53 points per game. Huge difference, right? That Bills game really blew the numbers apart. But the more that you control the game and you're able to keep points off the board, our offense, there's no reason why our offense can't score 21 points a game. What happened this past weekend can't happen. So number 1, scoring defense. You have to keep every team under 20 points, 19.99999 or less. Like that's the number 1 goal for me. Number 2 is TFLs. You have to be able to bottle up the run game which is number 3, and get some TFLs. I know I sound like a broken record some days, but if you can just go in and, control the game, you don't allow more than 70 yards of rushing a game collectively, right? You don't want one single running back to go for more than, 70, 75 yards per game. Collectively as an offense, if you can hold them probably to under 99 yards a game, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Like the Lions held every team under 100 yards collectively as a team, minus one game last year. And they only had one running back go for 105 yards. And that was the first time that has happened since October something of 2022, like 40 games. And look how many games we won in that span. So there's a reason why these weighted metrics matter. The history tells you since week 9 or week 8 or 9 of 2022 forward through the end of last season, if the Lions held every single opponent besides one under 100 yards rushing, and they held the majority of those teams under 20 points, you won that game. And the Lions pretty much did. They went 14 and what did we go? 14 and 3 and 15 and 2. What was our record in 23? Why am I forgetting what our record was in 23? Or was it 13 and 4? $12 and 5. Excuse me. So we went 12 and 5 in 23. We go 15 and 2. So 27 and 7 over 34 games. And out of those 34 games, I'm probably going to guarantee that we probably held our opponent collectively under 20 points or really close. Like probably 21 and a half, 22 points over those 34 games or probably right in that neighborhood. If you were to go back to 23 and 22, that number is going to be higher. And if you go back to 21 and 22, it's going to be higher yet. So you just watch. You just watch it, right? The trend is the rush yards go down, or the points per game go down. The wins go up. The rush yards go down. The wins go up. So top 3 for me: get some TFLs, get some stops, control the run game, scoring defense, keep your teams under 20 points, keep your opponent under 20 points. Turnover margin. You have to effectively get your hands on some footballs. You have to put the ball back into Jared Goff's hands. If you can do that one time a game, exponential factor for your win probability. Exponential. Huge. For any team, it's huge. Last night, the Bears get a pick 6. They didn't capitalize. Why didn't they capitalize? They didn't keep their opponent under 20 points. In the run, I wonder what the run game was. I forgot. Let's do one more exercise, then I'm going to get out of here. Okay, so they didn't hold their opponent under 20 points. If we look at the box score, the Vikings had 120 yards on the ground. 120 yards. The Bears had 119, but the Vikings won. So they had 27 points. They had 120 yards of rushing. And let's go to turnover margin. No interceptions, no fumbles. So they were 2 out of 3. They won 2 out of the top 3 metrics for me, and they win the football game. All right, so to answer the question here on what would be the most important characteristics for a player week to week, it's consistency, availability, and health. We know that. And 87% of you know that too. Consistency from week to week tells me, look, I don't care if you get 5 sacks today and then you disappear for 5 weeks and you don't get any sacks, that's a problem. So Darius Smith had 1 sack in 4 games last year and played 15 snaps on average the last 5 games of the season. And y'all are rushing to cash this dude's check for him. Come on back, Z. You were so good. Really? 15 snaps a game and in 1 sack in the last 4 games, that does it for you? So I just want to be completely transparent here. Marcus Davenport should be allowed to have 1 sack every 4 games and play 15 snaps a game, and you're good. Right? I'm just calling a spade here. That's what I'm hearing. Unless you didn't know the stats. Like you didn't know that that's what happened. So what you're hearing is the Darius Smith, and you're assimilating his name to great player. But underneath the sheets, it's a different story. Here's what I will tell you. Marcus Davenport is extremely good in the run game. Z was not. Davenport can help us in the run game. Z could not. Let's take a look here. Snap counts. Because he had about, I don't know, maybe he averaged about 30 snaps the last 4 or 5 games. 35 maybe. Mostly pass, right? So he had about 30 snaps against the pass and was barely in against the run. About 50% of the snaps per game. All right, I want to do one more exercise, and let me end this poll. Let's have some fun with week 1 here. Let's see if and don't forget this week, I think Wednesday, definitely no later than Thursday. We'll do our picks together, but we've got to do it quick. Every week we'll do it. So I'll do one with you guys, and then I'll do my own for the Rocks Locks. So you guys get to pick. We'll do the same parlay style, and you guys get to help pick all the games. And if we win, we're going to give somebody a jersey if we win. I mean, because clearly that's a lot of money. And you deserve to get some of that money back. So we'll hand out jerseys every week that we win. We got to win one, man. It's hard to pull off a 16-game parlay. It's really hard. It doesn't happen very often. I've never won one. Of course, you got to play, right? It's like the same thing they say about the lotto. If you want to win the lotto, you got to play the lotto. I don't really play. I used to love to gamble, but I don't know. Priorities are different as you get older, I guess. And even though I used to win a ton, the house always wins at some point. It's like a loan, man. You go in, you win 25, 30 grand in a night. And then the next few times you play, you give away. I'm not going to say the number because somebody will melt down. You give a lot back. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's take a look at week 1 real quick. I got dark mode on, so it's kind of tough to see, I'm sure. Hart Vandalay says he gambles with his emotions. Let's see. I play Lotto Gamble often. Hey, where's Brent Lighton been? Where's Brent been? I haven't seen him in here in a minute. Appreciate you guys for hanging out each and every day, man. You guys are consistent. You're doing it. You're consistent. The best part of this channel is the fact that you show up every day. All right, so let's do week 1. How many teams were able to exercise one of my biggest rules? Keep your teams under 20 points, you win the football game. All right, the Eagles, they did it. They held the Cowboys exactly at 20. The Chargers, they held the Chiefs to 21 points. They almost did it, but you can see how important that number really is. So Cowboys, that's 1. All right, Cowboys, that's 1. The Colts, I mean, I could throw the Chiefs in there because it's so close, but I'm not going to. Colts, that's 2. Steelers and Jets didn't work out. Jaguars, that's 3. Remember, I say that the number is usually about 85%. Now, I haven't added these up yet. Cowboys, Colts, Jags, Cardinals, that's 4. Commanders, that's 5. Bucks, that's 6. Bengals, that's 7. Raiders, that's 8. Wow. 49ers, that's 9. Broncos, that's 10. Packers, that's 11. Rams, that's 12. And the last 2 games didn't make it. So 12 divided by 16 is 75%. Those are great odds. You win 75% of your games by just holding your opponent to 20 points or less. That means that the Lions would be plus 12.75 games this year. So you know what today's article is going to be? It's going to be about this. It's going to be about my top 5 metrics that are the most important to me. And I'm going to lock it in. And I'm going to give you, I'm just going to give you my thoughts about it. But I'm going to lock it in writing because here's what we're going to find out. At the end of the season, if the Lions hold their opponent to less than 20 points, then we should have 13 wins. There could be some shootouts, right? There could be some really low scoring games. And that's where this little fudge factor kind of, we don't have one built into this idea, but there could be one, you know, for low scoring games or shootouts like, you know, the Bills last year. I can't believe that the Bills and the Ravens were in that big of a shootout, which tells me the Lions better study that game. The Ravens may not have a defense. If they don't have a defense, we better figure out a way to get that ball up and out and deep in a hurry. So we'll see. These are things that I've been talking about for a long time. And they've held true. All right, don't forget, tomorrow, it's game time, Detroit, and you found the right place for the latest Detroit Lions news. So hop on in and take the ride to Super Bowl 60 with Rockhound Detroit Lions. Join Will Rock, Eric Rintamaki, and Riley O'Brien today on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Good morning. All right. Well, tomorrow should be back with me and Riley, or Riley and I. Quick question, Trace. I probably missed it, but by 8:30 in the morning, as long as we start by 8, the goal is to have at least 75% of the people that are in to like the stream so we can turn the ads off. If we don't hit the first mark, then the second mark is 100 likes before 9 a.m. If we hit the second mark, we'll turn the ads off. We got really close. We're at 92 likes today. We have 100 right now that are in. We had about 130 or 40 earlier. So we got really close. But that's what we do for you all season long. I'm just not going to continue to remind every day because I think, anyway, you get it. Like, it gets old. The mods do a great job at reminding you. I'll pin it every day so that you understand the goal. But that's how we can give back to you. That's anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000 now every year in ad money that will not go into the kitty for the Rockhound Cancer Foundation when we do that. So that's about how many views we give up for ads if we turn them off. But that's okay. It's okay because we'd rather have a seamless connection with the audience that is in live. What you'll also notice here pretty soon is that the live shows, once we get good enough, are going to be segmented, and we'll get into the chat after each segment. The goal is to create segments that we can then turn into short form content for everybody else that's not watching the live. Maybe they only want to listen to a portion of today's show, and that way they'll have an option. So today's live show will be turned into a video, and then the live show may disappear. So that way you have to watch it as a video and you don't watch it as a live stream. And that's why it's important to have it segmented, because it could really kill stats if I put a 2-hour video up and only 10% of it's watched. Does that make sense? So anyway, it might get a little weird at the beginning, but I promise you it'll get better over time. We got some better segments coming throughout the season. We're super happy to have you guys along with us. Do us a favor. If you're new, hit that subscribe button today and tell a friend, man. That's the most important thing that you can do for this channel is simply just subscribing. We don't want your money. We don't want to sell you stuff. We have stuff you can buy. Like, we have memberships that you can get into. We have merchandise you can purchase. But our goal is to create a connection first, right? This is not a retirement plan. So we did not hit that before 8:30 today. Thank you. All right, now I don't feel bad. I thought that I missed it. Let's see. I'm fine with Brent not being here. He'll win a jersey when there's not even a raffle. U of M Dad is the one that's been cleaning up, man. He cleaned up like crazy. But yeah, we've got a raffle to do this week too. So we did hit one. We will be giving that away this week. So pay attention to that. I'll do that as a separate show. So anyway, you guys have a good day. Appreciate y'all. Man, what's tomorrow going to bring? It's Wednesday. So we are now going to transition to F them Bears tomorrow. And we'll start digging in slowly. Thursday and Friday is all Bears conversations. I'm working on a Bears crossover pod right now. I did not get anybody lined up. I failed miserably. So I'm working hard on trying to get that handled. It's only Tuesday. I have a little bit of time, but I got to get it done because I'll be at the game, which means there will not be a live stream unless Riley does it. Hopefully he does it. And then you guys can join him. It'll still be this channel, but it'll be, or it could be the other channel, but at least there'll be something. He should be doing the post-game show this week. I'm going to join by phone on my way home. So that's the plan with that. That's it. Gripes and Hype is tomorrow night. It is not on Thursdays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are transitioning to Wednesdays this week, and Wednesdays probably throughout the rest of the season, so we don't compete with Thursday night football. At least for right now, that's the plan. I might do a Tuesday or a Thursday show. If I do, it's going to have to be way earlier in the day. So that I'll get all that stuff put up and taken care of so that you guys can see the schedule. Pay attention to the posts in YouTube. That's where we put a lot of information. At Will Rock Jr. on Twitter is where we put a lot more information. And most importantly, make sure you follow Riley O'Brien and Eric Rintamaki on Twitter as well. I think Riley was having some issues with one of his Twitter accounts or his main Twitter account, but at least you can find them. I'll update the screen with some new graphics so that we have a lot more information put up there as well. You guys have a good day. Appreciate you guys, man. Hey, we're all one big One Pride family. So let's start backing these guys this week and make these Lions feel like, they know that we're there for them. They had a tough week. Let's not make it any tougher by putting their dick in the dirt. You know what I mean? That's an old saying that I learned a long time ago. Like, quit putting these dudes in the dirt, man. Let's rise them up a little bit. Let's get them feeling good that we got their back. That's what fans are supposed to do. We're supposed to have their back. You can be a fanatic, right, and not care about anything and be oblivious to everything. That's okay. You can be a fan that you care deeply and you get into all the stats and the analytics and all that good stuff. That's okay too. Whatever type of fan you are is great. The one fan that I don't think that they appreciate is the fan that is always just so negative. If you go back and listen and read about the Marcus Davenport story, that's the type of fan you don't want to be. When you affect somebody's family, that's terrible, man. Like that's not acceptable. We are better than that. We are way better than that. We used to be known as the best fan base in the country. We're slipping. We need to get it back. We're slipping big time. And I think it's all because of a couple of people, but we're slipping. Let's bring it back, man. We'll bring it back tomorrow morning, too. You guys have a good day. Take care. Pressured by Hutchinson.